What's going on, everybody? Welcome into episode 76 of the MudWatch Sports Podcast on this Thursday, May 15th, 2025. I'm your host, Zach Malamo. Before we get started, please subscribe below. Follow all of my social accounts. Let's start things off in the NBA as the New York Knicks were in action on Wednesday evening. A 127-102 loss in Game 5 of the Eastern Conference semifinals. Knicks still lead the series 3-2, but they head back to MSG for Game 6 against Boston. And the Celtics really took advantage early in this game. Obviously, the Knicks had a good first half, and Boston ended up tying things up at halftime, but then they really steamrolled the Knicks heading into the third and fourth quarter, 32-17, the difference in the third quarter. And obviously, with this Knicks team, they've been a very good second half team, especially in this series against Boston. It was the complete opposite in this one, and Boston really took advantage of things in the second half and really proved to the Knicks that, yeah, the season's not ending just yet. You're not going to get rid of us just yet. The Boston Celtics, obviously, without Jason Tatum, their star player in this one and for the rest of this season, out with that torn Achilles that he already got surgery on just the day after Game 4 at MSG. And then you look at the Celtics, the rest of the Celtics. Jaylen Brown was real strong in this one. Derek White as well. And Derek White putting up 34 points along with 3 rebounds, 2 assists, but he had 7 threes, and that was the huge difference for the Celtics in Game 5. 7 threes from Derek White. They got 3 threes from Jaylen Brown, who had 26 points along with 12 assists, 8 rebounds. And when a guy like Jason Tatum goes down, you're expecting your other superstar in Jaylen Brown to really step up, and he really took this game by the throat and really just ended the Knicks in this one right away as soon as he could. 26 points, like I said, and obviously the 12 assists, getting his guys involved. That's really, really good stuff from Jaylen Brown, and they didn't really need the bigs down low to step up. And Kristaps Porzingis, who only played 12 minutes in this one. Al Horford had 12 points, had 5 rebounds as well. But the difference was the guy off the bench, and Luke Kornet, who came into this game really not playing at all throughout this series. How about 26 minutes for Kornet in Game 5? And he had 10 points and 9 rebounds, along with 7 blocks on the defensive end. In the paint, he was just a monster, and he made things very difficult for the Knicks down low. And the Knicks really had no answers in the paint. Cat still had 19 points with 8 rebounds. Mitchell Robinson had 8 points with 13 rebounds, but that just wasn't enough for the Knicks, and the shots were not falling. Just one of those games where the field goal percentage was pretty much down, and the Knicks, who hit 12 threes in this game, are feeling pretty confident when you hit 12 threes. However, when you're going up against a team like Boston that hits way more than that, they had 22 threes in Wednesday's game against the Knicks, and really that's a huge difference maker. You let Boston shoot open threes, you let them hit shots, and Boston was definitely doing that in this one. Shot 44% from beyond the arc, and that's the difference in this game. And now the Knicks have to head back home for Game 6 at MSG, and that one takes place tomorrow night, Friday evening, 8 o'clock at the Garden. And this one should be a doozy for Game 6 of the Eastern Conference semifinals. The Knicks come into this game as 2.5-point favorites, total sitting at 209.5. And the Knicks really need to take this game, because if they don't, then you head back to Boston for a Game 7 winner-take-all. And you're probably saying all the momentum's on Boston's side if they do win Game 6. So the Knicks, the bad performance in Game 5. A lot of Knicks fans were really hoping that they would close it out then and there. They wouldn't have to deal with Boston for the rest of this series, but that's how this series was going to go. Whether Tatum was in or out of the lineup due to that Achilles, that's what this series was going to be. It's going to come down to one of the last 2 games, and the Knicks have to really play their best game of this series, in my mind, to beat Boston and knock off the champs in Game 6 of the Eastern Conference semis. So we'll see what happens, but make sure you tune in tomorrow night as a 8 o'clock start at the Garden. 2.5-point favorites the Knicks are at MSG. Let's shift things to baseball, and it's a huge week to be a New York baseball fan as the Subway Series is finally here. But let's start things off with how things went during this week for both New York teams as they were in action. We start off with the New York Mets. Already talked about Monday's game, a 4-3 win over Pittsburgh, and I talked about that on Tuesday's episode. Go check that one out. And obviously, the Mets had two more games to get through. A 2-1 win they got on Tuesday with Max Kranick getting the win in the end. Edwin Diaz came in for the save, and just a very solid outing once again from the Mets pitching staff. They just do their thing. Only one run allowed, and that came down to Kodai Senga, who's been tremendous so far this season. A 1.22 ERA to start the year, and through 8 starts. That's just tremendous. Exactly what you want, and trying to get Kodai Senga back to that 2023 form where he was just electric as the Mets ace in that season. Now with Sean Manaea out and obviously Kodai Senga healthy, he's taken over as the Mets ace once again. So it's been a great year to start for Kodai Senga. Got to keep it going. But in this one, 5 2/3, 6 hits allowed, just 1 earned run, 2 walks, and 7 strikeouts. The forkball was working great in this game. And obviously another guy in Brett Baty, who's really taken advantage of his opportunity, got sent down, obviously, in the middle, towards the end of April, comes back up on May 5th. And since then, he's been raking just home run after home run. He's had 4 of them since he was recalled from AAA. And he was the difference in this game, that homer into left off of the railing in left field in the bottom of the 7th, gave the Mets a 2-1 lead. They did not hand it back, and the Mets end up winning that one 2-1. They had a bad game yesterday, maybe a throwaway game, you would say. In the end, Clay Holmes did not have his best stuff. It was raining out. It was pouring out for the early parts of that game on Wednesday, but a 4-0 loss against the Pittsburgh Pirates, and just a game to forget. And now they head into a monster matchup against the New York Yankees. But on the other side for the Yankees, they had a solid series out in Seattle after the series win against the Athletics a couple days before that, Friday to Sunday. Then they had the Monday to Wednesday series out at T-Mobile Park in Seattle, Washington. And I talked about that the Monday game, 11-5 win for the Yankees. The bats really came out, but the story at the end of the game was the loss of Oswaldo Cabrera to that fractured ankle. And we'll see how long he'll be out for. Could be months, multiple months, obviously, with a serious injury like that for Cabrera. But then they went into Tuesday's game, and I feel like the Yankees still had a little bit of their minds on that, and just a rough day the day before. They go out into Tuesday's game, and the bats were just sleeping in that game and just did not get anything going. Finally, in the bottom of the 9th, they ended up getting a run on an error by the first baseman in Dylan Moore, and Volpe grounded into a fielder's choice. They ended up going into extras, bottom of the 11th, though, after the Yankees could not get runs in the 10th or the 11th, even with the ghost runner. Seattle takes advantage, and J.P. Crawford singles it to left, and the Mariners end up getting the 2-1 victory. And the Yankees overall, the good part of this series was then in the last game where you really saw the fight from this Yankees team after they went down 2-0 on Julio Rodriguez's 2-run double to right field. The Yankees then battled back. Dominguez chipped away with an RBI double in the 6th. Then in the 7th, it was Paul Goldschmidt who hit a homer to left to tie this one at 2. And then the captain himself, raking .412 right now on the season, hits another home run, his 15th of the year, tied for the league lead. And Aaron Judge plays hero in a 3-2 win for the New York Yankees. So they end up getting a couple of series wins on the West Coast trip. And obviously, that's a positive sign heading into the Subway Series as we preview that. It takes place tomorrow night and a 7:05 start in Game 1 of the Subway Series. Tyler McGill on the mound for New York for the Mets. And then on the Yankees side, it's going to be Carlos Rodon. And Rodon coming into this one, a 4-3 record, 3.29 ERA. McGill on the other side, 3-3 this season with a 3.10 ERA. McGill struggled in his last three starts, especially after a real good stretch to start this season. Rodon on the other side had a tricky outing in his last time out. But other than that, he's been really, really solid after that and really has gone deep into games, almost into the sixth, into the seventh, every single outing. So that's a positive sign. You know, when Rodon is on the mound, you're going to get length on the Yankees side. But now this Yankees team is going up against a tough pitching staff in the New York Mets, one of the best in baseball and the best in baseball overall, starters and relievers. They've been tremendous to start this season, and the Yankees are going to really be tested here at Yankee Stadium. The advantage, of course, for this Yankees team is the home crowd. It is the return of Juan Soto to Yankee Stadium after a tremendous season a season ago with the Yankees in the Bronx, and obviously led them all the way, helped Aaron Judge lead them all the way to the World Series. But all eyes will be on him. And obviously the Yankee crowd will not treat him very nicely heading back to the Bronx, and you're expecting a lot of boos and a lot of pressure on Juan Soto, but he is a guy who in the past has lived for moments like this of pressure, and the eyes are all on him. Will he step up? And for Met fans, you're really just hoping that Juan Soto just hits one into right field, similar to what he was doing all last year for the Yankees, just a couple of bombs to right, and Met fans will be happy. And if you're the Yankees, you just got to hope and pray that Soto just does not have his best stuff. And to start this season, it's been a real slow start for a guy like Juan Soto, only batting in the 250s. And just on the other side, Aaron Judge is raking. He's also got guys around him in Pete Alonso and Francisco Lindor that are having tremendous starts to their season. So a lot of pressure on Juan Soto, not just in this series alone, but in this season right now. It's just been a little bit tricky getting through his first couple of games here in his first couple of months as a New York Met. So we'll see what happens, but all the pressure going on Juan Soto, will he answer it? And will he answer the call at Yankee Stadium in the Bronx? And if you're the Yankees, you're going into this game just trying to bounce back after last year where the Mets ended up getting all four games against the Yankees. And the Yankees just trying to continue to roll to start this season. It's been it was a rough start to the season kind of last year. And Aaron Judge did not have the same type of numbers, not even close to the same type of numbers that he had a season ago until now. I mean, 43 games, and Aaron Judge is at the top of baseball in almost every category you can imagine from a hitter standpoint. So he's been red hot, and this one should be a monster battle, a great battle between Judge and Soto. The Yankees and the Mets, the matchup we've all been waiting for. Soto's return to the Bronx takes place tomorrow at 7:05. Make sure you tune in all series long as the Yankees take on the Mets. It's going to be, it looks like Clark Schmidt on the mound for the Yankees on Saturday, taking on Griffin Canning. And then Sunday, with Sunday Night Baseball, it's going to be Max Fried taking on David Peterson. It looks like that one, a 7 o'clock start on Sunday Night Baseball. So make sure you tune in all series long, and we'll obviously recap that and what should be a tremendous series and the Subway Series between the Yankees and the Mets on Monday's episode. Let's finish things off today back in the world of basketball with a guy in Giannis Antetokounmpo that's had a lot of rumors swirling around about him and about his next destination. It should be interesting what happens with Antetokounmpo, who still is a Milwaukee Buck and has a long contract still with the Milwaukee Bucks. However, when you're looking at Giannis and the ability of the rest of this Bucks roster that now is losing Damian Lillard for the season after he went out in the postseason with a torn Achilles. He's going to miss all of next year. Giannis still 3 years left on his contract, but I mean, the future in Milwaukee, will he win another championship? That's still a question mark for him, and probably one that he's going to want to figure out And if he can't figure it out, it's probably time to close this chapter in Milwaukee for Giannis Antetokounmpo, 30 years old, a two-time MVP, and a monster contract that he's dealing with. There are plenty of options, though, for Giannis to go to. And let's talk about some of those options. The main two coming out as the early favorites. Obviously, it can't be finalized just yet with the NBA season yet to come to a close. But the Houston Rockets are a destination, adding to their young core and adding Giannis to that group that was a 2 seed in the Western Conference this season. Of course, they got knocked out in the first round to the Golden State Warriors, a more experienced team with a lot of star power. If the Rockets can get a star player like Giannis Antetokounmpo, then they really take their team to the next level, surrounded with a lot of great young players that they drafted over the last couple of years. When you look at the other team that's favored in this battle for Giannis, it is the San Antonio Spurs, who ended up getting the number 2 overall pick in this year's NBA draft lottery. And the Spurs have Victor Wembanyama, of course, who just had a nice season, but obviously it was cut short due to blood clots. And then the Spurs ended up finishing this season pretty low based on their standards. They ended up grabbing a guy and trading for a guy in De'Aaron Fox, who's a free agent in a couple of years. After next season, he'll end up being a free agent. And then when you look at the rest of their roster, Devin Vassell, you also got Keldon Johnson, Harrison Barnes, but a lot of young pieces as well, with Stephon Castle, who they drafted a season ago, Jeremy Sochan, who they have on their team. And obviously with Victor Wembanyama being their core, Chris Paul probably going to come back if they end up grabbing a couple of pieces here and there. If they add Giannis Antetokounmpo and trade some of their young core, they still probably have the second pick in the draft. You would think that they'll probably keep that one and then trade maybe a guy like Castle, who they did draft a season ago. It could end up being flip-flop, but we'll end up seeing. I would say if they can end up getting Giannis Antetokounmpo to pair with Victor Wembanyama, they have a legit contender right away. Of course, with the duo up top in De'Aaron Fox, you get Chris Paul coming off the bench, the experience that they have there, and just a couple of young shooters that can go along with it. Who is getting in the paint against Wemby and Giannis? It's just not going to happen. It's going to be a very difficult time for opponents. And, of course, the scoring ability of both of these guys, Wemby more so, I would say, from the outside range than a guy like Giannis. They could still really take it to the rack and they can dominate the paint down low. And, of course, with a guy like De'Aaron Fox up top running things and running the show, they will be in very, very good hands. I think that's probably the dream destination for me in terms of Giannis. I would say go to San Antonio, pair up with Victor Wembanyama, and this team should be loaded in a loaded Western Conference already. I think the Spurs really make a strong case for themselves with those three guys and that big three that they would have if they added Giannis to the squad. Of course, New York teams have been talked about as another destination for Giannis. I don't see it happening, even with the Brooklyn Nets team that has loads and loads and loads of draft picks. I just don't see it happening. They have a lot of outgoing free agents. Of course, some of those guys with team options, but I think in the end, if this Brooklyn Nets team is looking at Giannis, they're pretty mistaken here, just based on they're not even close to being a playoff team. And that's what Giannis is looking for: playoffs, championships. And I don't think Brooklyn is the destination for that right now. On the other side, you got the Knicks, who, of course, their problem in a trade for Giannis Antetokounmpo is that they just traded for one man in Karl Anthony Towns down low. They also gave up a ton, and I mean a ton, the 5 first-round picks for Mikal Bridges. So they don't have really any draft capital here, plus the fact that they have a big man that they just got in Karl Anthony Towns. So it makes zero sense really for the Knicks unless they were doing a complete overhaul. But this team, where they are right now, Eastern Conference semifinals, looking to almost go to the NBA finals, I don't think Giannis is really what they're looking for this summer. But we'll see what happens. It should be interesting. The top 2 destinations, Spurs, Rockets. Who will it be? Or will he just end up staying in Milwaukee? But I feel like that one's pretty unlikely, especially with all the rumors swirling around in the league that the NBA is. There will be a blockbuster trade for Giannis Antetokounmpo, whether it's in a week, in a month. We'll see what happens, but keep an eye on it. And obviously, we will obviously keep you updated with all the latest news on Giannis and the summer of Giannis Antetokounmpo. But that will do it for episode 76 of the MudWatch Sports Podcast. Please subscribe below. I've been Zach Malamud. Thanks for watching, and talk to you all on Monday.